Relations, for example, says we are running out of words to describe the American Muslim community's disappointment with the Biden administration's refusal to demand a ceasefire. Ceasefire that, of course, would only help Hamas. Just this week, pro-Hamas member of the Squad, Cori Bush, got a primary challenger, Wesley Bell, dropped out of the Missouri Senate race to challenge her in the 1st Congressional District of Missouri. We predict pro-Israel donors across the country will give him and other Squad primary challengers large contributions. Here is how Morning Joe on MSNBC described the situation.
Domestically, if you see Biden numbers where his poll numbers are dropping 10, 11, 12 points within the Democratic Party, which will show Donald Trump ahead in a lot of swing states, right now you're seeing that because there are a lot of Democrats who disagree with Joe Biden over Israel.
Chris Hahn is here, host of the Aggressive Progressive, syndicated Chris Hahn radio show. Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's a lot, right? Look, the Democratic Party has always been a big tent with a lot of factions within it, and nothing unified it better than Donald Trump over the last 6 years. But here's an issue that's causing a little bit of a splinter. I don't think it's as big as you are making it out to be. 9 people voted against the resolutions, 5 abstained effectively. That's not a huge amount of people. But I will say that some of them do deserve a primary, and I hope they do get primaried and get out of existence. I'm tired of defending people who will not stand up to an act of aggression like that. And I'm not going to come on TV and defend any of them ever. I have been called, by the way, on my radio show, they've been calling me a PEP, Progressive Except Palestine. And you know what? I'm capable of having 2 conflicting thoughts in my head. I'm capable of saying Hamas needs to be wiped off the face of the earth, and innocent people within Palestine should have some sort of safety measure afforded them as well. But I also blame Hamas for their lack of safety, and I think that is, that is not palatable for some people, on the extreme left on this issue.
Well, it's not some people, Chris. It's 50% of people 18 to 24 side with Hamas. That's not just some people. I guess PEP is the Democratic version of Rhino. So there you go. And at least it is something that we can say, at least an acronym we can use on television. Look, the White House seems to want to have it both ways, and this is what I don't understand. At a time when moral clarity is needed, we're getting anything but moral clarity. White House to develop first national strategy to counter Islamophobia, as if all forms of hate are the same, as if the calls to slaughter Jews on college campuses around America are the same as people being fearful of Muslims because they're calling to slaughter Jews.
Well, look, I think we should not have violence on either side in the United States of America.
That's obvious, Chris. But Chris, that's obvious. But there's nobody calling for violence against Muslims.
I want to be very perfectly clear. No president has been a stronger supporter of Israel than Joe Biden has been. I don't know that it helps him long term, but he has been great on this issue. You ask Jewish people on either side of the aisle, they will say the same thing to you. You ask anyone in the state of Israel right now how good Joe Biden has been on this issue. They will tell you how good he's been. Calling for people not to attack people because they happen to be on the other side of an issue he's supporting is actually the right thing for the President of the United States to be doing. And he should be also attacking people who are attacking Jews on college campuses and across this country. I think Joe Biden's been great on this issue.
You might find this surprising. I'm going to take issue with a couple of things you said. One, from my reporting, I would say the Israelis think that Donald Trump was a lot more supportive of them than anybody has been in the past. Moving the embassy to Jerusalem, the Abraham Accords. Israel's most willing to compromise when they feel as though they have lockstep support from the American administration. And you're seeing now daylight between the Israelis and the White House, especially when the Israelis are getting lectured to day in, day out about international law. This is a simple question. How is President Biden going to deal with this? How is he going to keep the support of people who care about Israel, which there are a lot, both people who are and are not Jewish, and at the same time, keep the support of people, and there is a lot of them, who at the very least don't mind Hamas?
I think if you don't mind Hamas, you have no place in the Democratic Party, period. Full stop.
It's 50% of people 18 to 24, Chris.
I don't buy that number at all. I don't think those people know what Hamas is, frankly. I don't buy that number. They have no place in the Democratic Party. And Joe Biden should spend no time getting them. Hamas is a terrorist organization that slaughtered babies, cut the heads off of babies, kidnapped old ladies, Holocaust survivors, brought them back as human shield. They need to be wiped off the face of the earth. And if you are a person who sympathizes with them, you have no place in the Democratic Party, and Joe Biden should spend no time. Now, we can have two competing thoughts in our head at the same time. You could want to destroy Hamas and care for the Palestinian people who have no role in those terrorist attacks. I think we could all agree that we don't want to see innocents killed on either side.
Yeah, no, look, any loss of innocent life is tragic. One can argue, I think, whether the best way to protect, quote-unquote, innocent Palestinians is by destroying Hamas, because if you're an innocent Palestinian, the last thing you want is a terrorist organization running where you live and causing you all sorts of problems, including war every couple of years. But we go on. Chris, it's good to see you as always. Thank you. You're the right man to discuss this. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.